It is Saturday, and you only came for one score. That was the whole plan. Open the phone, check the one match that actually involves your team, put the phone down, be a functioning adult. Instead, you notice that Hull City are somehow drawing away from home. Then that Erling Haaland has scored again, because of course he has. Then that there are 11 minutes left in a game at the bottom of the table between two clubs you have no relationship with whatsoever, and you are now standing up, in your own kitchen, making a noise at a screen. It is the most ordinary thing in the world. Right now, in something close to 200 countries, millions of people are doing exactly the same thing, in different time zones, in different languages, wearing shirts with the names of strangers on the back. Except none of it is an accident. When the Premier League was invented in 1992, the entire television deal was worth around £300 million across 5 years. The current UK deal is worth roughly £6.7 billion, and the overseas deals for the same period add up to roughly the same again. Deloitte, which has audited football's books for decades, expects the 20 clubs to pass £7 billion in revenue in a single season. Same grass, same 90 minutes, 200 times the money. So what exactly is being sold to you? Here is the part nobody in a studio will say out loud. The Premier League is not automatically the best football on the planet. Ask a purist and they will tell you it is the fastest, not the finest. There are prettier passing patterns in Spain, cheaper tickets in Portugal, louder terraces in Germany. And yet no league is close to it financially, which means no league is close to it in attention. Something else is being sold, and it is not technique. Look at what the last season actually did to your assumptions. Arsenal won the title with 85 points, their first in 22 years, which people had been predicting and failing to see for a decade. Manchester City finished second. Fine, that is the boring bit. Now the interesting bit. Mohamed Salah, who has won the Golden Boot 4 separate times, finished the season with 7 league goals, somewhere in the 30s on the scoring charts. A Brentford striker named Igor Thiago scored 22. Bournemouth finished 6th. Sunderland, who had just been promoted and who almost every pundit alive had buried before August, finished 7th and qualified for Europe. And West Ham United, a club with a stadium built for the Olympics and a fan base the size of a small nation, were relegated. Read that list again. None of it is football quality. All of it is disorder. That is the product, not the winning, the not knowing. Economists worked this out long before television made anyone rich. In 1956, an American economist called Simon Rottenberg studied the baseball labor market and spotted a rule that no normal industry could survive. In business, you want to crush your competitor. In sport, if you crush them, you kill yourself, because nobody pays to watch a guaranteed result. 8 years later, another economist, Walter Neal, named the idea after the biggest boxer of the age and called it the Schmeling Paradox. Joe Louis could only get rich if there was a real chance he might lose. A champion with no credible rival is not a champion. He is a man punching air. And your brain, unfortunately for your Saturday, is built to find that irresistible. At Cambridge, the neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz spent years recording single dopamine neurons, the cells that fire when something good happens. What he found rewired how we understand motivation. Those cells do not really care about reward. They care about surprise. When the outcome is certain, the signal fades out. When the outcome is genuinely uncertain, the firing climbs and holds. Dopamine is less the chemistry of pleasure than the chemistry of maybe, which is why the last 10 minutes of a 1-goal game feel physically different from the last 10 minutes of a 5-0. You are not watching football. You are being dosed. So the real question is not why you love this league. It is how one medium-sized country got so much better than everyone else at manufacturing that feeling. Think of it as a machine with 5 moving parts. Part 1 is money that is deliberately shared. Most leagues hand the Giants the lion's share of television income, and the Giants pull so far clear that the season becomes a coronation with fixtures attached. The Premier League splits a large slice of its broadcast money evenly across all 20 clubs, so the gap between the biggest earner and the smallest is roughly 1.5 to 1, where rival leagues have historically run several times wider. That single accounting decision is why Ipswich Town or Coventry City can walk into a stadium full of £100 million footballers and take a point. It is also why you cannot safely skip the small games. The small games bite. Part 2 is fear, written directly into the table. 3 clubs fall out of this league every year, and they do not fall into a smaller prize pool. They fall out of the economy entirely. Ask Wolves, ask Burnley, ask West Ham, and look at what happens on the way back up, because the championship playoff final is routinely described as the richest single match in world sport. In May, Hull City won it against Middlesbrough with a goal from Ollie McBurney in the 95th minute, after finishing 6th, after a transfer embargo, after 9 years away, in a playoff that had already lost Southampton to a spying scandal. Deloitte put the value of that afternoon at around £200 million. One deflected finish in stoppage time, and a city's next decade changes. Now tell me that a scrappy match in April between 2 teams on 31 points is meaningless. Part 3 is an open border for talent, plus a checkbook with no bottom. In 1995, a Belgian midfielder named Jean-Marc Bosman took his club to the European Court of Justice for the right to move when his contract ended, and won, dismantling the old restrictions on players crossing borders inside Europe. English clubs, sitting on new television money, went shopping and never really stopped. On the opening weekend of the league's first season, you could count the foreign starters on your fingers. This summer, Chelsea paid Aston Villa about £117 million for Morgan Rogers, making an English player the most expensive British footballer in history, for a squad now managed by Xabi Alonso. Manchester City spent about £116 million on Elliot Anderson. Liverpool had already gone to around £130 million for Alexander Isak and £116 million for Florian Wirtz. The whole league burned through roughly £3 billion in a single window last year. The Premier League did not grow the world's best players. It bought them from everywhere with everyone else's subscription money. Part 4 is chaos on purpose. No salary cap flattening ambition. No draft handing the best teenagers to the worst teams. 380 matches in a country small enough that away fans genuinely travel, in stadiums that fill close to capacity in February rain, with a full fixture list on Boxing Day while the rest of Europe is asleep under a blanket. Every one of those choices adds noise, and noise, to a brain like yours, reads as drama. Part 5 is the quietest, and maybe the cleverest. The league sells itself as one story, in one voice, together. 20 clubs negotiate their overseas rights centrally, instead of each shouting into the market alone, which is exactly what several rival leagues refused to do for years. Sit in a barbershop in Lagos, a bar in Bangkok, a living room in Oslo, and you will hear people arguing about the same 20 clubs with the same phrases. A club negotiating alone sells a club. A league negotiating together sells a serial drama with 20 characters. And a story with 20 characters is far harder to stop watching than a story with 2. Put all 5 together, and you have a strange kind of casino where nearly every table is paying out something. Title race, race for the Champions League, race for survival, somebody's derby, somebody's manager on the brink. There is no round of fixtures in which nothing is at stake for anyone, which means there is no weekend where checking one score is safe. And now the part that feels backwards. The thing you love most about this league is not the winning. It is the losing. Loss aversion is one of the most reliably reproduced findings in behavioral science. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky showed that we do not weigh gains and losses evenly at all. Losing something hurts roughly twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. Our attention is lopsided by design. We watch the edge of the cliff far more closely than the summit. The Premier League, by genius or by pure accident, is built almost entirely on that lopsidedness. 19 of 20 clubs will not win it. Almost all the emotional voltage in the competition, the screaming, the swearing, the 94th minute equalizer that saves somebody's job, comes from people trying not to fall. Dread is the fuel, glory is the garnish. And here honesty matters, because football's favorite story about itself is that anything can happen. Leicester winning the title at 5,000 to 1 gets quoted constantly precisely because it happened once. The economist Stefan Szymanski, who has spent a career measuring this, argues that fans are not only chasing balance, they also want to watch greatness, and greatness costs money, and money concentrates. Both things are true at the same time. At the very top, this league is more predictable than the romance suggests, which is why Arsenal and City finishing first and second surprised nobody. Everywhere below the top, it is wilder than any comparable competition on earth. The uncertainty was moved, not removed. Which brings us back to your Saturday. Look at when the matches are actually played. Lunchtime kickoffs that land in the Asian evening, Sunday afternoons that fit an American morning. Games spread across 4 days so that no two matches compete for your eyes. Those are not football decisions. They are attention decisions written into broadcast contracts. The reason your weekend has a shape at all is that somebody sold the rights to it. You are not a customer of a sport. You are the inventory. And you already know this feeling from somewhere else. The feed that refreshes into something you did not expect. The notification that might be nothing or might be everything. Same variable reward, same anticipation loop, the same circuitry Schultz watched firing in a laboratory. Football simply got there first, and it does it with better music and a man in a suit shouting about a corner. None of which makes the joy fake. That is what people get wrong. Holland's finishing is real. Sunderland qualifying for Europe when everyone laughed is real. McBurney's 95th minute and what it did to 80,000 people at Wembley is extremely real. Understanding the machine does not switch off the feeling any more than knowing how a song was written stops it moving you. But it does change what you are looking at. Because the next time a game with nothing riding on it somehow will not let you leave, you will know the pull is not weakness and it is not luck. It is a system built from shared money, engineered fear, open borders, deliberate chaos, and one collective sales pitch tuned across 30 years to hold exactly your kind of attention for exactly as long as possible. It is Saturday, and you only came for one score. You were never the one doing the checking.